She would never admit it out loud, but there is a hidden weak point inside every woman. A point that, when touched, breaks her defenses, shatters her certainty, and makes her chase you without even knowing why. Machiavelli already warned us, whoever controls perception controls desire. And that is exactly what you're about to learn. This is not magic, this is not luck, this is strategy. A form of seduction so simple, so calculated, and so effective that it almost feels illegal. Prepare yourself, because after this, you will never see the game the same way again. She will never speak it, but inside every woman there is a quiet point, a silent trigger that reacts in strange ways when a man appears with the perfect combination of presence, mystery, and intention. It has nothing to do with beauty, money, or memorized lines. It is about understanding the emotional architecture of the feminine, the same way Machiavelli understood the architecture of the human mind. Once you grasp this mechanism, seduction starts to feel almost unfair, because everything flows so naturally, so precisely, that she believes it was her idea, and in a way, it was. You simply guided the choice. That is how the game begins. Subtle, silent, calculated, yet always elegant. The first thing you must understand is this: women are not attracted to the obvious. The obvious is predictable, and the predictable is boring. What awakens a woman's interest is the feeling that she is standing in front of a man who sees more, knows more, and rushes less. Machiavelli warned that the hurried man loses power because his urgency exposes his dependence on approval. So you never show hunger, you never show desperation, you never show need. You carry yourself as if you already possess what you want, and that is when she begins to wonder what your secret is. Seduction that feels too easy seems almost illegal because it disarms a woman's defenses before she can even build a wall. This does not happen through magic words, but through micro gestures, the gaze that lingers 1 second longer, the almost invisible smile at the corner of your mouth, the calmness of a man unafraid of silence. Women sense all of this with a sensitivity most men never notice. She picks up your posture, she notices the rhythm of your breathing, she detects the tranquility with which you occupy space. It is not your words that seduce her, it is your presence. The mistake of ordinary men is trying to compensate for insecurity with excess. They talk too much, they explain too much, they compliment too much, and excess exposes a lack of value. Machiavelli would teach that when you reveal too much, you lose the mystery, and mystery is the beating heart of seduction. What is hard to decipher becomes impossible to ignore. You do not give her your whole story. You offer scattered chapters, half-open sentences, calculated hints. She fills the rest with her imagination, and her imagination works in your favor long before you ever touch her. But seducing a woman with this level of ease is not about treating the process like an intellectual contest. It is guiding her like someone holding a delicate flame, firm enough not to let it die, gentle enough not to crush it. The Machiavellian secret is making everything look spontaneous. You plant small seeds, you let them grow in silence, and when she finally realizes what is happening, she is already deeply invested. Not because you pushed, but because you created the emotional conditions for her to walk that path on her own. Everything begins with your energy. Energy is not mysticism, it is behavioral reading. If you arrive tense, she becomes tense. If you arrive insecure, she closes up. But if you arrive with the quiet firmness of a man who has nothing to prove, her entire internal world reorganizes itself to try to understand you. That curiosity is the first step of Machiavellian seduction, and once you awaken the right curiosity, the rest unfolds almost automatically. She starts observing you more than she observes others. She listens to your words with unusual attention. She imagines things without realizing she is imagining them. Seduction happens inside her, not inside you. Women are highly sensitive to perceived value, not displayed value. Displayed value feels fake. Perceived value feels natural. You show value in the way you handle the unexpected, in the way you do not seek approval, in the way you speak slowly, in the way you remain composed when other men would fall apart. Every detail multiplies the impact of your presence. She cannot explain exactly why she feels something different, but she feels it. And that is enough. It is in this space, between the conscious and the unconscious, that seduction begins to feel almost illegal. Not because you manipulate, but because you operate on a level most people never notice. You touch internal points that lie above language, and before she realizes it, she is already giving signals, playing with her hair, adjusting her posture, glancing at you at regular intervals, asking questions that seem trivial but carry intention. She begins to want your attention. And there is no greater power than that. When she senses that you control the rhythm, she willingly moves to your tempo, but you maintain the lightness, the charm, the calmness of a man who could walk away at any moment. And because you could walk away, she wants you to stay. The human mind values what it believes it can lose. Machiavelli knew Women know it too, and now you learn to turn this into a silent art. Machiavellian seduction continues exactly where ordinary men give up, in the subtlety. This is where you realize that women do not fall for brute intensity, but for slow layers, almost invisible layers, that stack themselves inside her without her noticing. The secret is not to impress her, it is to replace the idea she has of you with the idea you want her to have. And you build that with small impacts so natural that she cannot even categorize them as strategy. The first layer is emotional. You become a breath of air. Everyone demands something from her: family, work, friends, social media, but not you. You become the space where she can relax, where she does not have to pretend, where she does not have to compete. Your energy says, "I am not here to fight you, I am here to see you." And that sensation disarms any woman. The power lies in not wanting anything immediately while making it clear that you are present by choice, not by loneliness. The second layer is controlled unpredictability. This does not mean disappearing. It does not mean being cold. It means being slightly less available than she expects, yet more present than other men are capable of being. A calculated balance. You answer when you choose, but when you answer, it is memorable. You do not vanish out of ego, you simply have a life. And the moment she notices that, she adjusts to your rhythm. Your time becomes valuable to her because you do not hand it out for free. Men who throw themselves at her too quickly make her lose interest just as quickly. What comes too easy feels cheap. Machiavelli would say the power lies in the uncertainty of the other side. She must feel she can win you, but not immediately. Seduction is a game of stimulation and restraint. You show a little, pull back a little, provoke a little, stay silent a little. Every action leaves small footprints that she follows without realizing it. The third layer is selective attention. You do not compliment everything. You do not validate everything. You choose the right moments. And when you choose, the impact doubles. Women know the difference between an automatic compliment and an intentional one. Automatic sounds generic. Intentional hits the emotional system. Saying, "You look beautiful," is ordinary. Saying, "The way you adjust your hair when you're thinking is fascinating," touches something deeper, because it reveals that you notice. Being truly seen is rare and dangerously addictive. The fourth layer is emotional control. She will test you, always. It is instinctive. She provokes, pokes, teases, creates little challenges, not to disrespect you, but to understand your internal structure. She wants to know if you're steady, if you have self-control, if you don't crumble over small things. If you react with irritation, you lose. If you react with neediness, you lose. But if you answer with humor, with calmness, with elegant detachment, you gain more emotional ground than any rehearsed line could ever give you. The illegal seduction begins in the tranquility you maintain while every other man loses control. And then comes the fifth layer: physical presence without urgency. It is not touching too soon. It is not rushing into impulsive kisses. It is letting your body language enter her space slowly. The closeness of your face when you lower your voice, the light touch on her forearm, the gaze that drops and returns, not like a predator, but like someone who appreciates what he sees. Women interpret these details in amplified resolution. It is not the touch itself, it is the intention behind it. When the intention is mature, calm, grounded, she feels it. She senses herself becoming more interested than she originally planned. This is the moment seduction begins to feel illegal, because you did not take anything from her. You did not force anything. You did not conquer her directly. You simply created a space where she allowed herself to feel something. And when a woman allows herself to feel, the entire game shifts. Now she starts thinking about you during the day. She remembers the things you said. She looks for signs of you without admitting it. She checks if you saw the picture she posted. She becomes more open to conversations she would normally ignore. And most importantly, she begins testing you more frequently. That is the clearest sign that you are already affecting her. Tests are good. Tests mean impact. She only tests what she fears losing. So when the provocations come, you do not confront, you do not complain, you do not dramatize. You smile, you flip the frame, you lead. And through that, she understands something rare. You are not just confident. You are comfortable inside your own energy. That combination is almost extinct. She starts realizing that your calm company soothes her, your attention excites her, your absence bothers her, your presence marks her, and that you see beyond her surface. And no one resists for long being seen that deeply. Seduction happens when she realizes you can touch emotional parts other men overlook, And you do it without rushing, without pushing, just by existing like a man who controls his own axis. And when she senses this, when she feels she is losing control over her interest, she tries to hide it, tries to rationalize it, tries to pretend she is not involved. But her body betrays her voice betrays her eyes betray her. And this is the point where Machiavellian seduction becomes inevitable. The desire is already planted. You simply wait for it to bloom. When a woman begins to feel that you have an emotional impact she cannot explain, something very important happens. She starts seeing herself through your eyes. Every gesture you make creates an expectation inside her, and that expectation guides her behavior. This is the most delicate moment of Machiavellian seduction because it demands balance. Too much force makes her retreat. Too much softness makes her lose interest. It is in the exact dosage that everything feels inevitable, natural, almost forbidden in its precision. The next step is mastering a simple concept: emotional rhythm. Every woman has an internal rhythm, sometimes fast, anxious, cluttered with thoughts, sometimes slow, deep, contemplative. Most men try to adapt to her rhythm. You do not. You establish your rhythm and invite her to step into it. This changes everything. When your rhythm is calmer, more centered, more secure, she automatically slows down. She feels she is with a man who is not swept away by chaos, but one who controls it. This contrast creates almost instant attraction. And then you use the most powerful weapon in Machiavellian seduction: conscious silence. Not cold silence, not ignoring her. Silence with intention. It is the moment when you simply watch her speak, smile lightly, tilt your head slightly, and let the moment breathe. Women are not used to this. They are used to men who rush to fill every silence. When you refuse to do that, you create tension, and tension is the oxygen of desire. Another crucial point is intelligent humor, not forced humor, not exaggerated jokes, not recycled lines, but surgical humor that reveals your sharpness. When she provokes you, you respond with a line that disarms her without disrespect. When she tests you, you answer with calmness and ease. And when she realizes you do not fall into predictable reactions, she understands she is facing someone who plays on a higher level. This kind of humor creates an intimate connection because it shows you understand her subtext. And then comes the most dangerous phase: the atmospheric presence. This is when your presence stops being physical and becomes psychological. She thinks of you before sleeping, in the shower, on the bus, at work. You appear in her thoughts without her permission. This happens because you were not overwhelming. You were unforgettable. Every micro-interaction left a deep imprint. It was not quantity, it was quality. And that is what makes you occupy an emotional space other men never even reached. Now, this is where most men make their biggest mistake. When they notice the woman is getting involved, they start accelerating the process. They want quick dates, they want guarantees, they want to advance fast. Machiavelli would never make that mistake. The moment she starts missing you is the moment you must remain most elegant. The mistake is trying to close the deal. The correct strategy is allowing her to take small initiatives, not because you need her to, but because it strengthens her psychological bond with you. Women value what they also help build. If she participates, if she sends the first message one day, if she suggests something, if she expresses interest, it creates roots. You do not eliminate the mystery, you simply open space for her to walk toward you. That gives her the sensation of freedom, and freedom is essential for female desire. When she feels she is choosing you, her interest multiplies. At this point, you begin using proximity in a calculated way. When you are talking to her, lean in just a little closer than normal. Do not touch yet, simply reduce the distance. This activates internal sensors she cannot control. Proximity alters her breathing pattern, changes her temperature perception, and releases tiny doses of adrenaline and dopamine. You do not need to touch, just being close is enough. This creates a magnetic field between you, and when you finally touch, touch lightly. Slow, deliberate touches that seem accidental but are not. A touch on the shoulder when she laughs, a brief touch on the hip when you walk behind her, a slow graze of the hand when you pass something to her. Every touch must feel natural and inevitable. Unexpected, rushed touches break the spell. Subtle touches, on the other hand, build a narrative her body understands better than her mind. But perhaps the most powerful element is this: the way you look at her. The Machiavellian gaze is not intense all the time. It is calibrated. Sometimes you look deeply and say something serious. Sometimes you look away and leave her wanting more. Sometimes you hold eye contact for 2 seconds longer than normal. The gaze creates meanings that words can never reach. When she feels that you see more than she says, a silent intimacy forms. And silent intimacy is addictive. This is why everything feels illegal, because you break the traditional logic of seduction and enter a deeper emotional logic. You touch parts of her that rarely get touched. You create an experience, not a technique. You stop being an option and become an atmosphere. And when that happens, she stops comparing you to other men. You are no longer a candidate, you become an enigma, and the enigma always wins. Then comes the moment when you realize she is completely invested, but still refuses to admit it. She talks about you to her friends, but hides it. She watches you when she thinks you are not looking. She replies to your messages quickly, but tries to act casual. She gives signals she never gave before. All of this means one thing: you now control the emotional narrative. At this point, all you need is the same calm guidance for her to go even deeper. When a woman begins to rotate emotionally around you, the game shifts to a new layer, the layer of silent desire. It is that moment when she still tries convincing herself that she is in control, but deep inside she feels something in you slipping into her mind. This is the most sensitive and the most powerful moment. If you act like an ordinary man, you risk losing everything. If you act like Machiavelli, you turn her desire into inevitability. Here you understand something essential. Your job is not to win her. Your job is to make it impossible for her not to want you. The difference is enormous. Men who try to win, chase, ask for attention, look for signs of approval. Machiavellian men create internal experiences that make a woman chase them, not because you are unreachable, but because you have become emotionally indispensable. The first step of this phase is mastering the art of selective presence. Before, you were present enough to build the bond. Now you gently reduce your frequency, not out of coldness, but out of strategy. You do not disappear. You simply allow her to feel your absence slightly. This creates small emotional gaps that she subconsciously fills by thinking about you. And the more she thinks, the more she wants. Intelligent absence is more seductive than constant presence. But this distance is mathematical, not emotional. You never disappear in important moments. You never leave her lost. You simply give her enough space for her to recognize that she misses you. When you do this, you return with charm, with light energy, with comments that show you remain stable and centered. She realizes your absence is never punishment. It is rhythm. A rhythm she begins to follow. The second step is deep connection, which is not built through obvious questions, but through conversations that reveal nuance. While everyone else asks, "What do you do?" you ask, "What do you seek?" While everyone else compliments her looks, you compliment her choices, her perceptions, her intimate gestures. You step into layers almost no one explores, and when you touch those layers, she opens without noticing. That emotional opening creates vulnerability, and vulnerability creates attachment. This is where the game deepens. You become the only man capable of making her feel something she does not feel with anyone else. It is not about passion, it is about internal sensations, safety, freedom, mystery, curiosity, intensity. You become the perfect balance between emotional danger and psychological comfort. That combination is irresistible to any woman. The third step is using sensuality strategically. Machiavellian sensuality is not explicit, not vulgar, not exaggerated. It hides in the pauses of the conversation, in your tone of voice, in the way you lean closer, in the way you hold your glass, in the movement of your hands as you talk, in the way you glance at her lips when she least expects it. Sensuality manifests in your intention, not your actions. That is why it feels forbidden. It happens without touch, without pressure, without acceleration. And then comes the turning point, the moment she realizes she cares. This usually appears through subtle jealousy. She starts asking about your routine, about other women, about your plans. She tries to map your emotional world. This is not explicit jealousy, but a delicate form of surveillance. a quiet attempt to understand whether there is competition, whether she might be losing ground. And this is perfect, because it means you have become a psychological priority. At this moment, you reply with calculated honesty. You do not promise exclusivity, but you also do not flaunt conquest. You create the impression that you have options, but are not particularly invested in them. This creates the perfect psychological field. She feels she could lose you, but she also feels you choose her. And when a woman feels this, seduction reaches almost irreversible levels. The fourth step is absolute emotional control. Here, you never show anxiety, never demand explanations, never question small behaviors, never react dramatically. You maintain the same elegant coldness that captivated her in the beginning, and this consistency is rare. Ordinary men change the moment they sense they are gaining ground. They become needy, they become emotional, they accelerate everything. You do not. You remain firm, stable, centered. This creates admiration, and admiration is stronger than attraction. Now something inevitable happens. She begins giving you signs far too clear to ignore. She sends longer messages, she replies faster, she tries to extend conversations, she shares personal details, and most importantly, she starts showing care. A kind of care she would never offer unless she was emotionally involved. She notices your mood, she asks about your day. She sends things that remind her of you. Women only do this when they are already invested. This is the phase where seduction feels completely illegal, because everything flows effortlessly. You did not chase, you attracted. You did not pressure, you guided. You did not dominate, you influenced. She does not feel manipulated, she feels understood. You have become everything she was searching for but could never name. And this is the essence of Machiavellian power in seduction, making her choose you while believing the choice was entirely her own. And when you sense she is fully involved, you do not change your behavior to take advantage of it. On the contrary, you increase the elegance, increase the calmness, increase the respect, increase the depth. You make her feel that being with you is entering an emotional territory where very few men can reach. This is what transforms her interest into surrender. With her emotional investment solidified, the game enters its most sophisticated phase, the phase of subtle dependency. Not desperate dependency, not exaggerated, not explicit. A light, natural, almost invisible psychological dependency. It is when she realizes that conversations with you affect her more than conversations with other men. It is when she notices her day improves when you appear and feels strangely empty when you do not. It is when she misses something she never knew existed. And once this feeling appears, you already have full emotional control. But this dependency only works when built with three elements. 1. Emotional constancy. You remain the same, stable, calm, deep. 2. Light unpredictability. You are not monotonous, but you are not chaotic. You surprise her with comments, with looks, with small choices. 3. Indirect validation. You acknowledge something in her without placing her on a pedestal. When these three elements combine, she feels she has found someone rare, someone she does not want to lose. At this point, you must understand something essential. There is no Machiavellian seduction without self-control. The more involved she becomes, the more you must maintain strategic coldness. Not coldness of distance, coldness of a clear mind. You do not panic. You do not create expectations. You do not depend on her response. Women can feel the moment a man loses control over his emotions, and that breaks the magic. The seduction that feels illegal is the kind that keeps the enigma alive, even when the woman is already completely interested. And speaking of enigmas, this is the time to intensify your mysterious side. Not with exaggerated silence, but with depth. You begin revealing stories you never shared before, but in a calculated way. Little memories that explain who you are, but not your entire life. It is not about opening everything. It is about opening just enough for her to feel she is entering an intimate territory few have ever seen. This makes her feel she has gained something special, something she needs to protect. Another crucial element here is emotional frequency control. She is more open now, more vulnerable, more connected. So you keep your energy light, but measured. You do not exaggerate romance, you do not make declarations, you do not hand over your heart. Why? Because the female brain reacts in a paradoxical way. When you give everything, she relaxes too much and stops investing. When you give just enough for her to feel valued but keep a small invisible margin, she continues investing. Seduction is a dance, and you lead each step with intention. Then comes one of the most decisive phases, advanced body reading. Now every gesture she makes says something. How she positions her legs when she speaks to you, how she tilts her head, how her fingers brush her own neck, how she holds her phone, how close her body gets when she laughs. You use this information to adjust your attitude. When she tilts her head, you speak softer. When she leans in, you stay firm. You do not pull back. When she touches her hair, you observe. This synchronized reading creates alignment and increases desire exponentially. Touch also enters a new stage. Before, it was subtle. Now it can be more present, not invasive, not exaggerated, just aligned with the emotional moment. You hold her hand for 1 second longer, lightly touch her waist when passing through a tight space. Place your hand on her lower back when guiding her somewhere. These touches activate her emotional system, create sensory memories, and associate your presence with positive feelings. It is a way of marking territory without saying a word. And then something natural happens. She begins to open up emotionally. She shares fears, insecurities, old wounds, not because she wants to vent, but because you feel like a stable presence. Here lies the crucial point. You do not get more emotional than she is. You do not try to fix anything. You do not turn into her therapist. You listen with a steady gaze, respond with few words, and show understanding without excess. This builds deep trust, and deep trust is one of the most seductive forces in the female psyche. At this stage, she starts testing you in more subtle ways. Slight delays in her replies, playful comments, jokes that brush the edge of jealousy. But now you know the game. You respond with calmness. Nothing shakes you. This self-control is what keeps her desire high. Because deep down, a woman seeks a man who is not emotionally fragile. A man who is an axis, not a burden. A man she can admire, not one she has to take care of. And then comes the true turning point of Machiavellian seduction. She starts to fear losing you. Not an explicit fear, not desperate, a soft internal, silent fear. She realizes you are different from all the others, and that losing you means losing an emotional experience she cannot easily replace. This feeling makes her more affectionate, more present, more available, more open. And when she reaches this state, you do not exploit it arrogantly. You do not diminish her. You do not use the power against her. On the contrary, you become even more elegant. You show respect, maturity, and calculated attention. You become the kind of man she always wanted to meet and always believed did not exist. And you do this without losing the mystery, without losing the control, without losing the essence. It is in this balance that seduction begins to feel illegal, because you guide her emotions without manipulating, influence without forcing, dominate without pressuring. You become the presence she chooses, the energy she seeks, the company she desires. And once she realizes she is emotionally involved, she becomes even more open, ready to go deeper into the game. When a woman is already emotionally invested, you enter the most sophisticated phase of Machiavellian seduction, the phase of psychological possession. This is when she feels, even if she never admits it, that something inside her belongs to you. It is a territory very few seductions ever reach because it requires finesse, patience, and a precise reading of behavior. Here, you no longer need to impress. You need to consolidate. And consolidating is different from conquering. Conquering is winning interest. Consolidating is transforming interest into bond, desire into need, attraction into emotional loyalty. 1. The first method of consolidation, inverted mirroring. Instead of mirroring her, you subtly make her mirror you. This happens naturally when you become her emotional reference point. She starts using the expressions you use, reacting the way you react, aligning her mood to your rhythm. This creates a powerful psychological phenomenon. The more she sees herself in you, the closer she feels. And the closer she feels, the harder it becomes to walk away. 2. The second pillar, emotional exclusivity. This is not about telling her she is special. It is about making her feel special without ever having to say it. You notice small details about her. You remember things she said. You pick up on mood shifts instantly. This gives her the impression that you see her in a way others never could, deeply, uniquely, unmistakably. Every woman, even the most independent, craves to be seen like this. When she feels truly understood, a bond forms that is difficult to break. This is where you use one of the most powerful elements of Machiavellian seduction, the unspoken. What you do not say carries more weight than what you do say. Intentional silences create openings for her to imagine, interpret, and project her desires. And the more she projects, the more involved she becomes. The unspoken makes her fill in the blanks with what she wants, which makes everything even more intimate. Machiavelli knew, controlling perception is more effective than controlling action. 3. The third pillar, emotional predictability plus behavioral unpredictability. She knows you are stable, centered, dependable. That never changes. But at the same time, you are not an open book. You surprise her with a deep comment, a subtle shift in energy, a small unexpected action at the perfect moment. This keeps her curious, attentive, and emotionally alert. This combination creates a chemistry that feels almost forbidden, comfort and tension at the same time. And then comes the most important phenomenon of this phase, controlled idealization. She begins to see in you a collection of qualities she always searched for, not because you sold yourself as them, but because you revealed just enough for her imagination to build the rest. Idealization is a powerful weapon, and you use it responsibly. You never create a fake persona. You simply highlight who you truly are, but in an elegant, intentional way. The fourth pillar is the game of energy. Feminine energy is extremely sensitive to masculine energy. When you show up calm, she softens. When you show up firm, she adjusts. When you look into her eyes with seriousness, her body reacts. Energetic connection is stronger than any verbal technique. It is the feeling that your presence changes the atmosphere. This cannot be faked. It is built through posture, breathing, rhythm, silence, and gaze. And it is exactly at this stage that she begins taking clearer initiative. She texts first. She schedules meetings. She reaches out to talk. She shows disguised jealousy. And when she does this, it is not desperation. It is because she feels safe enough to move in your direction. This is one of the strongest signs that seduction has entered its deepest stage. However, here lies the danger. Many men, when they sense this shift, become too emotional, speed things up, apply pressure, or try to make things official immediately. This destroys the magic. Machiavelli would never make that mistake. You maintain the same rhythm, the same calmness, the same firmness. She moves closer. You receive her, but you do not throw yourself at her. You allow, but you do not surrender completely. You create a dance where she always has room to advance, but never has absolute certainty of what she will find. Then comes the sensory confirmation phase. Here, every meeting intensifies the desire. Touches become more present, eye contact becomes longer, the atmosphere becomes heavier. She senses there is something different in the way you interact, and it activates her instinct. She begins to feel physical, emotional, and psychological attraction simultaneously. And when these three layers unite, seduction reaches its peak, but you still do not rush. Power lies in not looking anxious. You watch her lips while she speaks, but you do not kiss her immediately. You place your hand on her waist, but you do not pull her in forcefully. You bring your face close, but let the moment breathe. This pause creates an almost electric tension. Her body wants the next step, but you control the timing. And when a man controls the timing, he controls the intensity. Then something fascinating happens. She begins taking actions to make your move easier. She stands closer. She touches you more often. She glances at your lips. Her body becomes more accessible. The feminine leads when it desires, and she begins to lead without realizing it. This is the point where seduction surpasses strategy and becomes natural, fluid, inevitable. And when the kiss happens, because it will happen, it is not explosive, not chaotic, not rushed. It is slow, deep, calm, exactly like everything you built. It is a kiss that confirms everything she felt, everything she imagined, everything she desired. It seals the psychological bond, and after that, she cannot get you out of her mind. After the first kiss, something irreversible happens inside her. Theory becomes reality, and reality confirms everything her imagination had been constructing. This moment is critical, because it defines whether the seduction will remain an intense experience or become a deep, solid, emotionally unbreakable bond. Here, you must act with the same precision you used up to this point. The mistake most men make is believing the kiss is the final goal. But in Machiavellian seduction, the kiss is only the beginning of the emotional fusion. What matters now is how you behave after this moment. Common men change. Some become needy, others become overly confident. Others begin marking territory. You do none of that. You maintain the same rhythm, the same calmness, the same centered energy. This creates a powerful sensation in her, that you were not destabilized by the moment. Or better said, you were affected just enough without losing your axis. This skyrockets your perceived value. She begins thinking about you even more. The kiss becomes a sensory anchor. Your calmness becomes an emotional anchor. Together, these forces make her replay the moment, crave the touch, desire the continuation. Women connect deeply through sensations, and you just activated several at once. From now on, your presence becomes more addictive than ever. At this stage, you must maintain the game of emotional tension and release. You do not disappear, that would be childish, but you also do not cling, that would destroy everything you built. You remain present but never anxious. She talks to you, you respond naturally. She sends hints, you notice, but never react predictably. She shows desire, you match it, but only in the proper dose. This dance makes her feel that the connection between you is solid yet still vibrant. Then comes another crucial element, deepening physical contact. You do not skip stages, you do not accelerate. You know the most powerful seduction matures like wine, not like a spark that burns out quickly. You create more intentional moments of closeness. When you walk together, your hand brushes hers. When you sit, your bodies stay closer. When she laughs, you pull her lightly by the waist. These micro-gestures trigger biological mechanisms. Her body begins associating your presence with pleasure, comfort, and desire. And the more she feels this, the deeper she surrenders. But in the feminine universe, surrender is not only physical, it is emotional. She begins talking about her feelings without noticing it. She asks your opinion on personal matters. She subtly seeks your validation. This means you have become a reference point, and being her reference is the apex of seduction. It means she evaluates her emotional world through you. At this stage, you can and should lead with more intensity. Aligned masculine energy is not aggression. It is direction. It is not brute force. It is clarity. She wants you to lead, to take steps, to guide the progression. She will never say this explicitly, but she will reveal it through unmistakable signals. Prolonged eye contact, constant physical proximity, increased touch, open body language, and when she demonstrates this, you escalate your touch elegantly. You hold her face when you kiss her. You wrap her waist with more intention. You draw your body closer, still slow, still controlled, still deep. The energy of Machiavellian seduction is not explosion, it is magnetism. The more you control the intensity, the more she melts. And then comes something most men never understand: psychological consolidation. Through controlled vulnerability. This is one of the most powerful and delicate moments of all. A deeply involved woman wants to feel some reciprocity. Not that you are in love, but that you are not made of stone. This is where you open small, real, human cracks. You share something intimate, something true, something that shows you have layers, something few people know, not something that weakens you, but something that humanizes you. When you do this correctly, you create a devastating emotional bond, because she feels you chose her to access a part of you the world does not see. And when a woman feels truly chosen, she surrenders even deeper, not out of manipulation, but out of connection. At this point, the relationship enters the level of shared intuition. She begins to know what you will say before you say it. She understands your mood just by your eyes. She feels your energy even from a distance. This is emotional fusion, and only a few connections ever reach it. It is the moment you stop being just a man. You become a complete psychological experience. And then comes the most subtle and most dangerous moment of all, the confirmation of continuous desire. She wants to know if you want her as much as she wants you, but she will never ask. She will test you. She will create scenarios, small situations, carefully crafted moments, not to ruin you, but to reassure herself. And you, with Machiavellian calm, navigate each test with elegance. No fear, no anger, only balance. With every test you pass, the bond between you deepens. With every signal you give, her desire rises. With every gesture of firmness, her trust expands. This is how a woman moves from attraction to involvement, and from involvement to emotional loyalty. A loyalty born not from commitment, but from admiration. The final phase of Machiavellian seduction is when everything is already established, yet nothing feels forced. It is when she does not merely desire you, she chooses you, with conviction, even if she never says it out loud. At this point, the game is no longer about convincing her or impressing her. It is about preserving the magnetism, deepening the bond, and transforming the experience into something she will never be able to forget. This is the stage where your presence becomes almost an emotional necessity, where the seduction feels illegal because it is so effective. At this point, she is fully connected. Her body responds to your touch. Her mind responds to your presence. Her emotions respond to your silence. You have become an internal reference, a point of stability she wants close. But this does not mean you relax or change your behavior. If anything, consolidation now requires more precision than ever. 1. Stable masculine energy. She must feel that no matter what happens around you, you remain the same, centered, confident, controlled, present. This is not monotony, it is security. And security is an emotional aphrodisiac for the feminine. Every time she sees that the world can be chaotic, but you remain in your axis, desire renews itself. She feels she is with a real man, someone not shaped by external winds. 2. The comfortable mystery. She knows you now. She understands much of your pattern, but she has not fully decoded you. That is where the magnetism lives. The secret is not hiding things. It is having depths that never end. Opinions she discovers slowly. Stories you reveal as the bond strengthens. Desires that appear naturally over time. You are not an unreachable riddle. You are a depth she loves exploring. Women fall in love with the depths they uncover, not the surfaces handed to them. 3. Continuous sensory connection. Here, it is not just about the kiss or the touch. It is conscious physical presence. When you hug with firmness. When you look with intention. When you touch her neck, you do it slowly. When you pull her by the waist, you guide with certainty. This makes her body memorize you, crave you, desire you. The feminine adores a man who knows how to lead, and when you lead with that blend of softness and strength, she surrenders more each time. 4. Crafting emotional memories. The long look in the car, the slow kiss before leaving, the deep conversation at 2 a.m., the shared laugh, the unexpected touch on the nape of her neck. These are emotional seeds that bloom inside her. This is how you become unforgettable, not through grand gestures, but through micro-experiences that repeat themselves naturally and strike deep. There is no seduction in exaggeration. Seduction lives in the detail. Now we reach a fundamental weapon of Machiavellian seduction: silent emotional strength. You never need to say, "I want you." She already feels it. You never need to promise anything. She already senses it. You never need to mark territory. She has already given it to you. Because at this stage, it is not your words that speak. It is your energy, the way you position yourself, the way you keep your composure, the way you hold eye contact, the way you decide the rhythm of everything. She feels guided, and the feminine loves being guided by a masculine energy that is firm, calm, and conscious. By now, you have become part of her life. She includes you in small details, waits for your opinions, seeks your emotional validation. And this is the point where most men collapse. They feel safe. and suddenly they relax their posture, their presence, their intention, but not you. The difference between seducing a woman and keeping a woman is strategic consistency. Your posture remains impeccable. Your gaze remains deep. Your humor remains sharp. Your presence remains grounded. She must feel that the man who conquered her is still standing right there, unchanged. And this is where the most powerful bond of all emerges: spontaneous emotional loyalty. Not forced loyalty, not verbal commitment, but an internal, self-created truth inside her that says, I want this man, and I do not want to lose this. Emotional loyalty is born the moment a woman realizes that she has found a rare man, and that trading him for anyone else would be an emotional downgrade. You do not ask for exclusivity, she offers it. You do not demand priority, she gives it willingly. Because now, you are part of her emotional axis. And the most fascinating part is this: she does not feel manipulated, captured, or trapped. She feels chosen. She feels valued. She feels seen. She feels understood. All because you guided the process with intelligence, depth, and elegance. Seducing a woman so easily that it feels illegal is not sorcery. It is not pickup tricks. It is not dirty games. It is applied psychology, controlled energy, conscious presence, strategic calm. It is understanding how women function and offering exactly what activates the deepest parts of their emotional architecture. In the end, Machiavellian seduction does not end in domination. It ends in reciprocity. She does not feel beaten, she feels complete. She does not feel used, she feels alive. She does not feel manipulated, she feels understood. And you, because you held your self-control from beginning to end, become the kind of man she wants, not only out of desire, but out of admiration, connection, and deep respect. This is the absolute power of seduction that feels almost illegal. She chooses you. She desires you. She follows you emotionally, and she truly believes it was all her choice. That is the art.